Hey, good day YouTube, everybody out there. Thanks for checking in. Just a quick video to discuss the preparation, the planning, forethought in some of these SHTF events that we have going on. Just last week I was driving back from Reno, and coming down the highway it looked like half of Carson City was on fire. There was so much smoke. It was pretty crazy. I guess there was a fire actually from a lightning strike right behind the theater on the south side of town, and by that time it had blown up so much smoke it was going over the valley. It looked like almost like the whole town was on fire. But anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. Just kind of example what when things hit, like the shock of, okay, what is this, and trying to grasp your get your bearings on what exactly is going on. How bad is it? What do I need to do, right? So this Hurricane Henry thing, I think goes without saying, or maybe it needs to be said. I guess that's why I'll say it. That's one of those things, and a lot of those people living in certain places, you can only plan so much, you can only prepare so much. That is a situation with all that flooding that would just totally overwhelm any sort of planning and preparations most normal people have. You don't have the time, money, or capacity to deal with something like that. It's just overwhelming. And there's been many instances of disasters like that. We've had several large forest or brush fires, wildland fires out here that have fortunately, for the most part, not been near structures or built-up areas. But those can quickly overwhelm, especially rural people in rural areas if they get out of control and stuff. But things like Hurricane Henry and the way that went down, you hear certain prepper channels kind of, well, if you got your stuff locked down, and you're prepared, you can handle it pretty easy. Well, it kind of depends on where you're located with the flooding. If you're high and dry, you should be able to ride it out, right, with your preparations if you've prepared, if you have a certain amount of preparations. But if you're in a flooded area, unless you have the capacity to build a 5-foot seawall, maybe even have taller than that. Some of the rainfall reports like 72 inches of rain or something crazy. 6 feet of water. I mean, seriously, you don't have the ability, unless you're deep pockets, to deal with something like that, or prepare for something like that. I mean, most people in that area, they experience flooding every year down in Houston and places. They have certain things built in, I'm sure. Certain people have, they know what's going to flood. I don't think anybody has been through anything like this. It's kind of like Katrina. It just, once it overwhelms things, it gets out of control. Once it overwhelms the infrastructure that was built to hold it back, it's all bets are off. And people don't understand that. Now, when you have your preparations that you do have, and where you're at when it comes to thinking about this in the planning perspective, and what we can learn from it, or what we can use it to move forward, and what we can use this for, to look at our own box of preparations that we have, our own little bag of tricks, our own little plans. In the military we had an escape and evasion plan if things went really bad. You make contact with the enemy, you make an alternate decision, you break contact, you move to an ambush point, you change something up and you engage again, or you break contact again. And then there's a E&E plan. And an E&E plan is usually escape and evasion, to a designated predetermined point. So it's still part of a plan. It's still part of, I will go to this point and expect to get contact every 20, it'll be checked every 24 hours. There's different ways to make the plan. But it's a place you'll go, and somebody knows to contact you every hour, every 24 hours, every 72 hours, whatever, depending on how your time and space is working in the bigger picture. That's still part of a plan, though. So we all in preppers, everybody talks about the bug out plan, like where I'm going to bug out to. But in something like Houston, that overwhelms everything so fast. It's such widespread. It can quickly overcome your bug out plan too. Same thing with large scale earthquakes. Unless you have the capacity and the ability and money to have a bug out location in another state, who has the time and effort to do that? Not very many of us, me included. Most of us don't have that capacity. But if you know where things are when things go bad, and you lose all comm, you lose all cell phone coverage. You had what's called, it had a couple of different names. In today's plan, the Go To Hell plan was the most common term you would have heard it would be called. It's when you're in hell, you're in a place worse than hell, and that's where you need to get to. That's how bad it is. You're in these spots being compromised or occupied by the enemy or overwhelmed. In this case, we talk about your bug out location, overwhelmed by the natural disaster or whatever, and you need a Go To Hell plan because it's better than where you are now, to put it in a better perspective. And that's more conceptual, and it's not like a hard and fast necessarily a location. Can be, but it's not necessarily written down either. It's more like understandings. It's like agreements, like just a mutual understanding. And that's in our situation here. That's going to have to do with family that live in long distances away, friends that that live long distances away that would be amiable, or they just have an understanding. Hey, if you show up at their doorstep looking for shelter, basically, or some other form of aid, there's a reason for it. You're not just there to freeload it. If you're there, things are really bad somewhere else, because you may not be able to get communication with them. Obviously, if you can get outside of an impacted area, you move outside the area of the hurricane and get out, and then you can get communication on comm and get on the cell phone with somebody, you can make a plan, maybe. But if you don't, if all those things fail, they're still not up. They still don't have, you've pretty much ran out of food or gas or something as you moved out of the impacted hurricane area, and you're trying to get to somewhere else, and you still can't get communications, knowing, okay, where are my backup locations, that it's better to go there uninvited and unaware than it is to stay in your area where you're at, right? It's better to go there than to go to a Red Cross shelter or something like that, because shelter environments, we've all seen, it can get chaotic in situations like this. The Red Cross, you pretty much can't even take a pocket knife in a shelter. You're completely defenseless. You're completely at the, their mercy. So not many people will enjoy those type of situations, and all your belongings, whatever you have in your vehicle in the parking lot, are up for grabs in a lot of cases. So identifying now, okay, I have my backup go-to location, your bug out location, for lack of a better word, in a normal situation, in normal, X, Y, and Z situations, this is where you're going to go. But the scale of the disaster, the situation is so large that you have to go beyond that to places that you haven't planned for. But you have, people, family. Most people that watch the channel, I imagine, have family close by. But if you have more widespread roots, for lack of a better word, more widespread influence, other states away, people in the military, this is probably the one thing that people in the military have going for more than anybody, is you have a lot of connections in a lot of different states, and there's just that mutual understanding for many of us, that if somebody showed up, you would immediately help them out, take them in, do what you could do for them, right? Having those type of contacts can go a long way. And if you got the family, those distances away, even better. Unless they're a bunch of freeloaders, or if they're just, you have bad relations with them, maybe, what do they call it? Estranged family relations. That might be the best place to go. But if any other types, that's probably going to be your Go To Hell plan. That's where you got to go to get out of the situation that you're in. And this Hurricane Harvey, I think, many people probably explored those avenues of, well, I can't go anywhere I ever expected I would be able to go because either I can't get there or because of flooding, or I'm flooded or they're flooded, etc. How much further away do I have to go to find some solitude, some rest? How much further out there do I need to go? You know, you're talking 500 plus miles probably. Your problem with resupply on gas obviously is an issue. Fuel. How much have you cashed up? Do you keep in a cash rotation to support something like that you can take with you as you effectively move out? Would that be able to extend you out? Obviously, if you can get communication with somebody after you leave an impacted area, they can come to you with supplies and maybe help you up that way. Maybe that's the need. But if you absolutely have no other drop dead location you need to get to, like, where are those? Thinking about where those people are, and have the discussion now, and then it becomes kind of a formal plan. But it's still pretty loose around the edges. It's still not it's not something that's your primary or even your tertiary. It is definitely that last ditch. There is nowhere else within reason, and they're one of the options. Anybody has friends in other states, it's definitely worth having the conversation or understanding. They have your making sure they have obviously your address, maybe some form of communication other than cell phone. The ham radio network obviously is would be a primary good for something like that. But really, how many people have thought beyond just your regular bug out plan, and really what it would be like to show up at somebody's doorstep without any form of communication prior, and just you show up? Would those people be accepting of you coming in, I guess, in natural disaster or otherwise? Because a lot of people have the preparedness mindset don't like surprises, right? Don't like people coming in uninvited. But is it a pre-invitation type of scenario too, where it is that mutual understanding prior that's really going to be important. So just something to think about that I thought about when I was seeing this hurricane as it developed and went on. You know, you have people coming in from 1,000 miles away to provide support. What if you're trying to get out and you had to go 1,000 miles to get out of the impacted zone so you could receive some relief of some sort? You know, what does that look like? What is that? Who are those people that you can rely on? Who are the people that just understand and would help you out regardless? Some people have more friends than others, I guess you would say, and that can be detrimental. Maybe it's just, literally finding knowing a lake camp out location, and you're just camping by the lake, and that's going to be as good as it gets for a while. That's a better alternative than some of the others. So just something to think about, YouTube. Be good, live free.